In 1999, world champion Garry Kasparov played a game of chess. It was against Veselin Topalov, a world championship contender who even appeared at the candidates at some stages, a very strong player. But this wasn't just any normal chess game, no. In fact, this game was almost unanimously agreed to be the best chess game of all time. It features great attacking chess, extremely strong play from both players, and three brilliant moves, all being stunning sacrifices. There's no easy brilliance here, it's all beautiful stuff. Without further ado, let's just jump into the game. So Kasparov here with the white pieces. He opens with e4, signaling quite an attacking game. We see d6, immediately a shock from the second move of the game. Not often you see that. Not obviously a refuted opening, this is known as the perk defense, but a little bit passive and maybe even slightly dubious at the highest level, which is why it's been given the dubious move sign here. But I would say it's almost a good counterpunch because against a player like Kasparov, world champion, one of the best opening players of all time, you kind of want to take him out of theory. Playing a person, you almost want them to take out them out of their opening prep as soon as possible. Of course, Kasparov knows this, but the quicker Topalov can get him out of his prep, it means he's playing against Kasparov the man, and not all his opening knowledge that could have been done with like books and previous Grandmaster analysis. So he continues with d4, normal stuff. This is a hypermodern opening from black, so he wants to control the center from a distance. And interestingly, Kasparov goes for this setup, now known as the 150 attack, which the engines still prefer against the modern defense to this day, which is very intriguing that he's able to play at such a high level, even back in 1999. So c6, a very flexible move. Again, a little bit dubious, but black is so flexible, he's not committing to anything. In fact, he's not even castled yet. He's saying, maybe I'm going to take some space on the queen side, I'm going to take the sting out of any sort of d5 ideas, and just wait, see what you're going to do with the position. Kasparov continues with f3, making sure no knight gets to g4 and also securing his center very well. b5 by Topalov, lashing out on the queen side. Maybe he's going to start some sort of attack, maybe not. He might even castle queenside, even with it being so open. But if he decides to castle kingside, he's basically discouraging white from going queenside, saying if you go queenside, I'm just going to attack here my pawns, and I have a ready-made attack on that side of the board. Also claiming a little bit of space. Knight g to e2, getting a piece out, both get a knight out, and the bishop snakes its way into that h6 square, trying to trade off that bishop on h7. That was the idea of setting up this battery, teaming up the queen and the bishop to trade off this key dark square defender. Captures. You might be thinking, wait, what's he doing? The queen looks a bit silly on h6. Black can't even castle. If he could, it'd still be a bad move because the attack is coming with h4, h5, maybe even sacrificing a rook later down the line just to open up that king and just obliterate the black position. You can argue the queen is a bit misplaced on h6, but it can easily snake its way into g7 and try and gobble these pawns if black decides to go long, which there's another idea the engine was suggesting to me when I had similar positions in some of my games. So we see bishop to b7, then Kasparov just goes a3, another little waiting move, making sure b4 doesn't come with too much tempo so you can just grab that and saying to Topalov, what's your plan here? What are you trying to do? Topalov plays e5, lashing out, taking a bit of space in the center for himself, but we can see Kasparov's center is very solid with the f-pawn, and his central control is still going to be better. And here Kasparov decides to long castle because of this e5 move that's actually weaken the d-file. So he's long castling to get his king a little bit safer, but also put a rook on this really important file in the position. Queen to e7. The queen is actually very well placed here, defending all the dark squares that have been weak enough for the trade of the bishop, and Kasparov just goes king to b1. And the notes here for the game says this is a grandmaster move. It certainly is. You show this move to a beginner, they would think, what are you doing? You've got all these pieces, knights, rooks, queen, pawns even, and you want to move your king to a weird square away from the center? Well, obviously this keeps the king much safer and also takes the sting out of any sort of queen g5 ideas with check, maybe trying to trade off the queen, or even trying to do any annoying checks or tactics, just avoiding all of that and getting the king much safer on that b1 square. Obviously, you've played Sicilian, you might be quite familiar with this idea of moving the king over to b1. Ben Feingold even says always play king b1, so always a bit of an interesting move when you're castled long. Topalov goes a6, just solidifying, and then knight to c1 by Kasparov, another great move. The knight is repositioning and just freeing up this bishop to get into the game. Here Topalov finally castles, and now we've actually left the opening, so both players probably out of prep, and Kasparov continues with knight to b3. Now he's got both the horses jumping in. These knights are going to try and wreak havoc on that black position. Topalov finally decides to clarify the center, but again, the rook takes, obviously forces it back. And now Kasparov has actually opened up this d-file. And we can see both players have sort of oddly placed pieces, I would say. There's going to be a lot of maneuvering that needs to be done to actually get something going here. So we see g3, just completely sort of setting up. Maybe to go on bishop d2, probably to play bishop h3, which Topalov anticipated. That's why he moved the king. Now Kasparov goes for knight to a5, which actually turns out to be a little bit out of touch with the position. The position is now completely equal. And that's because this bishop isn't really doing too much. It's sort of biting on granite, as they say, with these two very well defended pawns in the center. Of course, the knight prevents that one. and you're looking at a pawn chain, so winning this bishop isn't of paramount importance, but practically from a human standpoint, this is actually quite a good move. Topalov goes bishop to a8. He keeps the bishop, but the engine was saying he didn't have to do so. Of course, this is very high-level stuff, so we're sort of clutching at straws here to get this sort of analysis. We see bishop to h3 by Kasparov. Of course, a great move getting a piece into the game, but it's just not very useful on h3 in the grand scheme of things. It's sort of a very high-level blunder, well, no, mistake even, where it's not like he's losing the game or anything, it's just this piece could be on a better square. Of course, very, very high-level stuff. d5 by Topalov, the best move. Finally striking back in the center. His king is opened up, but he's not afraid. Queen to f4 check, finally getting the queen back in the game, centralizing it. King to a7, he slides king out of the way, and now rook h to e1, getting both the rooks in the game. A very funny common rule is, if you don't know what to do, put your rook opposite your opponent's queen, it's bound to be useful. And we can see you're immediately threatening things like pawn takes e5. Topalov has to do something about it. Topalov decides to play d4, completely eliminating that threat. The knight's got to move out the way. It jumps into the middle, actually sacrificing a pawn here, but this is just going to open up the position even more. Knight recapture, the pawn takes, the queen is of course hits, that's got to move, you can't just grab this pawn. Queen to d6, offering that queen trade, maybe trying to go for some sort of draw. Kasparov does not give a crap about a draw, he goes rook takes d4, complete sacrifice of a rook. Now this is just giving away a rook. The idea is basically just to open up the king. If you want to trade the queens, Kasparov is just going to be pressing in this endgame. He's going to go here, and now you're not getting a free rook. I mean, general rule is, if you can't see why your opponent is giving you free material, you should take it. Topalov says, all right, okay, what are you doing? Giving me a free piece. I'm just going to take that. But that's actually a mistake, because he allows the incredible move, rook to e7 check, sacrificing another rook. And you just can't take this, because you get mated in 4. Got queen d4 check. If you want to slow down the mate, you've got to block with the queen and sacrifice it. Queen takes c5, king to b8, queen b6 check. And the king actually has no moves. Bishop b7, and then you're mated. If you decide not to lose your queen, you're going to get mated even faster. You've got to go to the back rank, and it's the same mating pattern. Bishop to b7. This time, a bit different. You're going to check. Could be winning the queen, but no, the king slides over, and you're mating him anyway. No need to win that queen. A very nice sequence. So we found that you can't actually take that rook, so Topalov is forced to run the king into the open. King steps forward. Kasparov checks with the queen. King takes the knight. b4 check. He sacrificed 2 rooks and a knight. Now the king comes down. Queen to c3 check, immediately threatening that queen to b3 checkmate. Topalov has to do something about that. He cannot take that rook, because you will just get checkmated. That is mate with the pawns and the queen combined together beautifully. And can the king even survive here? Of course, he can't take the rook. He grabs a pawn. Then we see rook to a7, threatening this checkmate. He's got to block that. Bishop to b7, blocks with the bishop. That bishop's really annoying blocking. All right, give up the rook for it. The rook is worse than that bishop now, because it's defending the king. Kasparov needs to get this attack going, and you can't even take back with the queen, because again, you're going to get mated. Absolutely crazy stuff. Topalov has to play. He goes for the best move, queen to c4, still blocking that check. Now Kasparov plays the best move, recapturing that knight, recouping his losses. Now he's not even done any material, and it's almost not clear whose king is weaker. I believe the engine's saying here Topalov should play rook to d1 check. The king will have to slide to b2, and then black has a bit of an initiative here. Maybe rook to a8 defending, and he sort of holds things together, but it's still a good position for white. Topalov instead just grabs a pawn with his king, leaving himself open to this check. The king grabs another pawn, but again, we focus in this game. Kasparov is just proving that material does not matter as long as you have activity. Morphy proved it first, and Kasparov is just showing it to perfection in this game. c3 check, sacrificing another pawn. You can take it, but then queen to a1 check's coming in. King's got to slide over, and white, only having a few pieces, they're just all so active, going to be swinging in extremely quickly. Queen to b2 check. You don't actually want to go up. This allows a mate in 9 with the bishop to f1 check, of course, winning the queen, so obviously a bit of a moot point. So the king has to go down. What are you doing there? Where's the attack? Bishop to f1. Complete sacrifice of a bishop. You can't even take that bishop, because queen c2 check, king e1, then rook e7 check, and you're going to give up your queen and get mated. Of course, you cannot allow that. This bishop is just not capturable. He decides to go rook to d2, but Kasparov had an answer for that as well. He's trying to say, okay, you take my queen, I'm going to take yours, and I'm actually just going to be equal in the endgame. If you want to trade, it looks like this, like takes. And now black is actually up a pawn, so of course Kasparov couldn't do this. He had to find something else. He decided to go rook to d7. Black has absolutely no threats here. He's forced to just take the rook and give up his queen. Otherwise, he's just getting mated. If you want to block, maybe play a move like queen c2, you just can't do that, because I'll take that queen with check, and your rook is still pinned. Black is just so paralyzed, he has to take the rook. And now you lose your queen. B takes c4. You think, okay, he's got 2 rooks. No, you don't. Queen takes h8. Queen versus rook endgame. Black has a pawn, but a few moves to go through. That pawn isn't going anywhere. The king's weak. Kasparov solidifies the structure, reroutes the queen to a7, and this is just completely lost for black. That queen is going to sneak in. You can use your king to stop this pawn and just feast on the black pawns, make a second queen, the game is over. Absolutely stunning play for Kasparov. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video, and I'll see you in the next one.